Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time. Man, time is flying. It is already February 3rd. This is what we're talking about. The year is going to zoom by, people. Trust me. Pretty soon, we're going to be like, hey, first quarter's over. Then it's going to be like second quarter's over. And then, oh my gosh, guys, it's the end of the year. Are you prepping for 2027? So trust me, things are moving quick and we're excited about it. We've got a great episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about how to make faster business decisions without all of the data. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to go, Trevor, Troy, you guys are always telling us we got to have the data, have your numbers, right? Put it all together so you can make educated decisions. Yes, you absolutely want to do that. However, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs are waiting too long. They're struggling because they wait too long to make a decision because they're looking for all that data, right? They're looking for everything. Well, the thing is, along the way, you can make smart decisions with the data that you have, even if you don't have all of the data. So Troy's going to jump into it. You know, Troy, he's got all the good facts for you and all the good information. So dive on in, Troy. Let's get this going.
Yep, exactly. So like Trevor said, you know, the truth is a lot of times you're going to almost never have all of the data, right? Waiting can really hurt the business. So what we're going to talk today about is how you can make those faster decisions with confidence, even though you don't have it all. So now, why is waiting for perfect data so dangerous for your business? Well, there's some hidden costs of a slow decision. Number one is missed opportunity, right? Have you ever been trying to, figure out that quote for that client or that pricing, and you're working on it, and then you finally get it done and you send it over and they're like, yep, we already went with somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. So you missed the opportunity because it took too long to make the decision, right? It also causes team confusion and hesitation. When your team doesn't, when there isn't a decision made, or they feel like you're struggling with the decision, that can cause confusion on what they should be doing in their job, and also hesitation of like, ooh, do I move forward with this? Because what if my boss changes his mind, or, he really hasn't made a decision, so I better just hold off as well and wait till that decision's made. And then, of course, also you've got bottlenecks, right? Where everything is waiting on you as the owner of the business. And that really can hurt the business as well. So, you really need to have this, mindset shift that indecision is still a decision, right? And usually it's not a good one.
Yeah,
right?
It's the decision to do nothing.
Exactly. So what you want to do is you want to kind of reframe it, and you want to look at, speed plus the correction often beats slow, but perfect. So let me say that again. Make sure we understand that. Making a faster decision and being able to correct that decision is often better than making a slow decision that's perfect. Now, that's not always the case, but it can be the case in a lot of scenarios.
Because perfect is the enemy of profits. Perfect is the enemy of profits. Nothing is ever perfect.
No.
Ever.
Exactly. All right. So today we're going to talk about the 70% rule. When you have enough data, right? So you don't need 100% certainty. A lot of times, 70% clarity is usually enough to make the right decision. So, a lot of times we're waiting for that last 30% because we just want to be like super confident, and be like, yeah, I never make a mistake because I had all the data. But usually 70% of the data will get you to the right decision. So what you want to do is you want to ask these filtering questions for yourself. Number one, do I understand the problem clearly? Right? So if you don't understand the problem clearly, then yeah, you probably shouldn't make a decision. But if you do understand the problem clearly, then you can probably move forward with a decision. Next question, do I know the likely outcomes? So what are the possible outcomes from these decisions? And then the most important one, is this decision reversible? So if I make the wrong decision, can I reverse it? And can I, correct quickly and move forward from there? right? So some good examples of this would be like hiring, pricing, marketing campaigns, a new software or promotions, right? You want to think about those things like, can you reverse that decision? If you hire somebody and they're not the right person, you can fire that person, right? Pricing, you can, depending on like going forward on pricing, you can go, oh, you know what? This pricing didn't work. I'm going to make a change on that pricing. I'm either going to raise it or I'm going to lower it. Marketing campaigns, of course, you're always going to be making changes to your marketing campaign. No marketing campaign just stays the same, right? So that's
I wish it would make my job easier. That's for sure.
Exactly. So here's the thing. If waiting for more data won't significantly change the outcome, you can decide now, right? You can go ahead and make that decision with 70% of the data. Now, let's talk about reversible versus irreversible decisions, because this is really important to pay attention to, right? So a reversible decision can be undone or adjusted. And guess what? This is most business decisions, right? Most business decisions can be turned around if you need to. They are reversible. Now, an irreversible decision, that is a one-way door, right? You cannot reverse that decision. So what would be some examples of that? Selling your business. That's a irreversible decision, right? Mm-hmm. You're done. You're out. Major legal moves, right? These ones you've got to be very careful with because most likely they are irreversible decisions. So when it comes to legal matters, you're going to want to get all the data on that one before you make that decision. So those are the kind of big irreversible decisions. So the rule of thumb is this: if it is a reversible decision, you can decide fast. You can make that decision quicker because you have the opportunity to reverse it and shift and pivot and make that change. Irreversible decisions, that's where you are going to slow down and you are going to get counsel, right? Think about that, right? We talked about legal moves, right? You're going to get an attorney and they're going to give you counsel because you have to make the right decision when it comes to those legal things. I was actually reading a post it was actually Russell Brunson. He was doing a post the other day, and it was actually an interview, and they asked him, he said, what's one of the biggest mistakes you've made with your business? And he said, the biggest mistake I made with my business was not putting together all of the legal documentation and the exit strategies for business partners in the very beginning. And he's like, it cost me tens of millions of dollars when it was all said and done, because certain partners wanted to exit the business at different times. And because we didn't have this legal structure in place of how that was going to happen, it was very expensive. So that's, again, a great example of an irreversible decision. You can't go back in time and change it, right? So you got to do it right in the beginning. So that's really important. And it's important, like, again, with those decisions, because when you think about it, it's like in his situation, when a bunch of business partners get together and they start a new business, everyone's super excited and nobody's going to leave, but then somebody does, right? So, and that's an irreversible decision. So you take the time. All right. So common mistake is treating every decision like it's irreversible, right? Which just leads to indecision. Okay, so let's talk about some simple decision frameworks. So here's some tools that you guys can use immediately. Framework number 1 is worst case test. So what you're going to ask yourself is, what is the worst realistic outcome that can happen? If I make this decision right now, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? And
I think it's Tim Ferriss, right, from 4 Hour Workweek, that said something like, you go there quick and you say, what's the worst that can happen? And if it doesn't kill you, if it's not death, then do it. He's like, he's being extreme there, but it's to make a point that, like, it can always usually get worse. And then but it can't get worse than death, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And like in our business, especially like with when my dad was before he retired, he's the ultimate optimist. So whenever we would look at a decision, he would always look at what's the best outcome that can possibly
totally.
happen. And me, I'm the opposite, right? I was the airline pilot. I'm always looking for what's going to go wrong and trying to prevent it from happening. So I always looked at the worst case scenario. And then Trevor was always right in the middle, with it. So the question you got to ask yourself is, can I survive it, right? If I make the wrong decision, can I survive it? Can I fix it, right? So that's what you're looking at there. Framework number 2 is called the 10-10-10 rule. And basically that is, how will I feel about this decision in 10 days, 10 months, or 10 years?
Will it even matter?
Yes, exactly. Because that's the thing. In a lot of cases, like Trevor's saying, it won't matter, right?
No.
Like we're worried about the decision right now, but in 10 years, it's not going to matter, right? But it also opens up your eyes to, will this matter in 10 years? Like with Russell Brunson, if he'd asked that question, when it came to, the exit strategies for partners, will this matter in 10 years? It probably will matter, right? And it could have saved him millions of dollars.
Totally.
So,
well, it's like, even, I mean, just think about this. Like when Troy and I set up operating agreements with our business, and we kind of had our ideas when we first, were going at it and everything and thinking about it. And then later when we went and met with legal, we were like, oh, this is what we thought of this. And we thought of this. We thought of this. And they're like, oh, good job. But you didn't think of these 10 things. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's like, that's why they do what they do. That's why you hire a carpet cleaner, because he knows how to clean your carpets way better. That's why you hire a home inspector, because he knows how to inspect your home better than you do. You hire a lawyer because they know things and have experienced things and seen things that you have not. So, yeah. Right?
Exactly. All right. So framework number 3 is bias toward action, right? So here's the thing. Action usually creates new data. So when you move forward, you make a decision, you usually find out more things, right? And then what you find out can help you either, validate the decision you made or make a correction and do something else. Waiting rarely does provide any additional data. And I've seen that, in our business, there's been times that I've been struggling with a decision and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to think about it for a little bit more. And I think about it and I think about it and I'll think about it over the weekend. And do I learn anything new over the weekend to help in that decision? No, I do not. Right? All I did was delay the decision. And now I'm just making the same the decision off the same information, but now I'm 3 days later. Right? And I might have missed an opportunity because of it. So it's really important to think about that. Now let's talk about, building decision confidence as a leader, right? So confidence comes from clear values, clear goals, and trusting your experience, right? Looking back on your experience, trusting the decisions you've made in the past, and that based on that experience, you're going to be able to make a good decision going forward. So, but again, you want to make sure that you really have clear values, clear goals. You have a clear understanding of what you're trying to accomplish with this decision, so that you can then, trust that you're going to make the right decision there, right? And here's the thing. Most decisions don't fail. They just need adjustment, right? Very seldom do we make an absolute wrong decision that is devastating to us in our business, right? It's just that, okay, not maybe the best decision. I need to adjust a few things and this will be better for us.
Well, and really quick, I'm going to jump back a little bit to when you said, 75%, something around 75% of the data is enough data to make a decision. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 70%.
70%. Well, here's the thing is, because the other 25% is in your knowledge. It's in your experience. It's in your gut. It goes back to that whole thing of like, trust your gut. That goes a long way. And I guarantee in the beginning of your business, you trusted your gut a lot more than you probably are now if you're more established and 10 plus years in, and if you're really trying to go data heavy, but trusting your gut has probably got you where you are. So going back to that, it's like if you have 75 or 70% of the data, 70% of the data, that other 30% is your gut. When you get the data, if you think, okay, I should make this decision, I bet if you wait around for all of the data, you're still going to go, yep, that was the right decision. Plain and simple.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too, is that the other data may not come. The other data you're waiting for may only come when you make a decision, right? And I'll give you an example of that. Like, let's say you're doing a quote for a job and you're like, okay, I'm trying to decide how much should I charge for this? How much should I charge? What do I think that they're going to be able to pay? Like, how am I going to win this bid? Right. Mm-hmm. And so you can keep going back and forth and looking at it. But guess what? A lot of times what it comes down to is you send over your price and then they come back and say, yeah, that's not going to work for us. And then now you have more data. Well, that's not the right price. Okay, great. Let's make some adjustments. And here's what we can do. Here's how we can change that bid and we can still take care of you. And now you have the data you need. And now you make the right decision with the right pricing and you get the bid. You get the job.
Yep.
Right. So a lot of times that extra data is not going to come until after a decision has been made and you move forward. So here's what you need to do. It's really important to decide, communicate, review, and then adjust, right? So you make the very best decision you can. You communicate that decision with your team or whoever you're working with so they understand why you made that decision. Then you have to review it. You got to look, did any more data come in that can help us, make a better decision? And then you adjust based on that. A lot of times as business owners, we make the decision and then we walk away and we're like, well, the decision's made, right? No, let's look at it, let's review it, and let's adjust it so that we get the best decision. Even if it's, even if we have to kind of redo that decision down the road. So that's really how to be successful and how to be able to make decisions and then keep the business moving forward and adjusting to be successful. Anything else you want to go over, Trevor, before we kind of hit the, the homework?
I think it's really key for entrepreneurs, right? As I was saying, to go back a little bit to the roots. I feel like I touched base on that a little bit when I was talking about your gut. Go back to your roots and go with your gut, okay? Because you're going to make good decisions based on that. Most of the time, if you think about it, if something went wrong, you already kind of knew. And you were like, I knew that was going to happen. Or if something went really right, you're like, hey, that went really good. I mean, I made a good decision. And most of that, in the beginning, it's probably like 90% your gut, 10% data.
Yes.
Right. And then later you're like, I'm data heavy. And look at these big, huge corporations that I'm data heavy and all these things. It's like, cool. But they start to fail. Yeah. They start to bloat. They start to have a lot of fat and waste a lot of money. And it's because there's nobody there really leading, nobody at the helm leading with their gut, with that intuition that made the company profitable in the first place. So even though we preach, and that's kind of why we went with this today, was we preach data. We love data. Data helps you make great decisions. However, sometimes you get hung up in the data. So that's where we wanted to reel it back and say, beginning of the year, go with your gut. What do you know is going to happen for you guys this year? What do you know you should implement, get rid of, reevaluate? Go with that, execute it, and this year will turn out better. I promise you, this year will turn out better for you. You'll kind of be like, holy cow, you made a lot of good decisions in the beginning. So anyways, I just think bring it back, people. All right, this week, take a look at your business, see what you've been delaying making a decision in because you're just like, well, I don't have all the numbers or all the facts yet or all the data, right? If you are 70% there, that I would put at 70%, you're at 100% because you know what to do from there. So go with it. All right. All right, everybody. Well, we just absolutely love you. We appreciate you. We love doing this. We have so much fun with you guys every single week. And it is crazy how fast the podcast has grown. Love, love, love it. Keep checking us out on Instagram, YouTube, all of the podcast places like Spotify, Audible, Apple Music, Google, whatever, Google Play, or all the different places because we are everywhere. And so share it with your friends, family, and we will check you guys out on the next episode of SoTellUs Time.